Hey guys, today I would like to talk about one of my current feature that I had just finished working on. So first I would talk about the issue itself, and then I will talk about my solution regarding code and how people would test it. So regarding this one, I will have the issue itself, which is just right here. Um, so it's about a daily exchange file. So basically, you can pause this to read it, but we have an issue that when the clients send deposit money to our account, their their performance suddenly goes up, and so it's impacting the calculations on their performance. So that's because of the daily file progress, and the daily file is sent to us by a third-party service. So we identify that the third party deliver us the wrong the wrong data. So this person is our lead developer, as said in our Slack channel. Ooh, I'll try for my pin, but yeah, as suggested in our Slack channel, I'll make this one red so I can see it. Yep. So in our Slack channel um that we have an error in this date, and so we need the third party to resend us those files, and we already have the old data in the database, and and then they suggest that they would send us through the SFTP, and then we will rerun it. So that's pretty much what is happening. And my solution is gonna work on a ADF pipeline to take all these new file and rerun it as a one-off solution. And yeah, and now I will go on to talk about how my solution that I work on. First, I will talk about my ADF solution. So we got an ADF pipeline, which is going to be a one-off pipeline here that is going to run and process all the file being sent to us. So in a general logging, we get all the files, and then we filter the file based on the syntax of the name. Then for each file, we will do a set of things to update the data. And after that, if the pipeline fails, then we will execute a pipeline send failure email and do the fail pipeline. Um, yeah, and execute another pipeline called fail pipeline. So these one are the default that being given to like that other developer already developed. So I just copy them and put it here. So yeah, most of my work is in the bit before this bit, but I did some modification on this one as well. So maybe I will quickly talk about the easiest piece, which is when it fails, and show you the modification. So for this one, when it fails, what I did was I put the title in for which one it fails, and then I put on which file it fails on. So on my variable file name. So the variable is what gonna tell us which file it fails on and tell about which pipeline it is and in which folder. So this is gonna be given to us when we run it. Yeah, and then yeah, that's pretty much all I did for changing it anyway. Um, these one I didn't do anything. So yeah, now let's talk about how this pipeline is running. But first we're going to talk slightly about all the variables. So For this one, I only have one variable, which is the file name, because it would change when you find a file, and when you get to here, it will have a different file name, depends on different file. So that's why it's going to be changing. All these parameters is what going to be passed on to the pipeline. So if we look at all these boolean over here, they are what the field value. So if it's true, that field value is going to be changed. But if it's false, then it's not going to be changed. And when you run the pipeline, so for example, if I hit debug, which is for running it, you can change it here. So if I change it to false, so because it have a default value here, so that field value won't be updated. So that's the main reason. So we identify that we have five of these fields in our database that has the data different to what's supposed to be. So these are the fields that we need to change technically. So for extra safe, we just make it true or false so that we can control whether we want to change them or not. And then expected transaction prefix is that, so we want to look for file that has this prefix in the file, contain this string in the file, and these are just the folders. So the process there is when it get processed, and then the source folder is where the file is going to be at the start, and the transaction folder is where they process the transaction. So yeah. So first we get all the file, and actually we go to the source folder where they started. So it just basically just grab every single file it can get at. And then it filter based on that. So based on this output, it will filter this, it will take all the file with that prefix, and we only look for CSV file because that's what they're gonna send us. So yeah, we take all those files, and so for this one, once it has the right data for it, it just processes it. So it just processes each file. So now I'm gonna go through the process of each file that it does in here. So if I go edit here, so the first thing is it set the variable file name to the file that it takes. So for each file, it takes the file name, then it puts the file in the execution log. So we have another table in our database, staging DB, that has execution log, so we can see which file get processed and what happened to it. So yeah, we just put it in here, what time, date, time, and then after that we put it in a staging database, which is one of our table in the staging in our database as a place. So what it does is it's gonna take these one, and then it takes take the file, grab the file name from our source folder, grab from the file name, and then mapping it with the table in our database. But before we copy it, we want to delete everything in that table. So for each file, we're gonna delete everything in the table. And so in that case, we can insert a new stuff in the table. So, yep. And then this is the mapping. So we just map each column to each other, which is done automatically. And that's when it starts working. Now, once it being loaded, everything finished, it will go through to a store procedure, and I'm gonna show the store procedure later on how it processed the file. So it go through the store procedure, and the store procedure basically take these values that we just grabbed from here, and then it grab the modified by, which is this pipeline, right? And then yeah, pretty much it takes these values in, and so if it's true, it should change it. If it's not true, it wouldn't change it. So we have the store procedure name here, and what I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna show you how the store procedure soon. No worries about that. Yep, so then that store procedure will look at the, basically that store procedure will look at the stuff in the staging table and compare it with the actual table and then do the changing. Yep. So after this process is successful, all the data get changed to the right correct number. We copy the data to different location. So first we copy the data like, and just copy it to a place, which is a source is well source folder, and the sink is our process folder. So that's the one for our data lake. And then it's also copy the data. So in our SFTP, it moved the file from to the process folder. So it goes from our source folder and it goes to the process directory. So once it go there, then so the file get moved there. So now, even though we say it's moved, but it's a copy data, so technically the file is still in the source folder. So once it's moved successful, we delete it in the source folder. And then that's it for this part. And then after that, the next file come in, it goes through the same process until all the file is resolved. So that is how they update it. And next, this is the store procedure that run the update. So we have it takes in these 5 values. So we put it as the default, or if people don't put anything, it's going to be 1, which is true. We're going to change it. And then the modify by, we put default to be nothing, but when the pipeline send in, it's going to send which pipeline it is, and we'll send in these data. So we have a transaction. So everything is wrapped in a transaction. And first we grab an incoming table, which is taking stuff from our staging. And that staging is done with the first when we insert the data in the staging. And then we join it with the party account relationship so we can get the data for that based on the party. So that in that case that we can grab some of the important data for the party relationship, which is going to be the account ID, which is what we need to use to link that. And then we join with the fund and fund code. So we can grab some the fund ID, which is for us to track which one it is in the fund code. And then here's our update data, which is the data that we are going to update with. And what we are doing is we're gonna join the incoming with our account balance, which is a table that we need to update it with. And we match it on the account ID with the same fund ID and the same unit price date. So that is, so we only take the one that has these data. And then we join them up together. And we want to make sure that the ID is not null. And then finally, we do the update. But before this, so this is just checking. So if it is, we need to change, then we change it. Then we use the data of our own, that the incoming data. But if we don't need to change it, we use the current data. And it's the same for everything. So this is the data we need. And we grab the ID so that we know which one to change. And so, and then now we do the update. So the update is just set these value, change the modified date to be the current date, and then change who we modify it by based on our data, and then with the account balance to be the same account balance. And then, so these one I get common out because some of the stuff, it just screw up the pipeline a little bit. But yeah, we check for row counts to see how many we put in for update. And if we have the same amount, then we check for, we sum more up, and then we check the sum of the update and the sum of the current one to see if they update. And that's pretty, and then, so yeah, we check for all of them, each one of them, and then we're gonna put the message back if it's not happening. This file, which is script post deployment, is run after deployment. So we look at the property of the script, it's gonna have the build action to be post deployed. And it didn't do copy, which is doesn't really matter, but it would use this one. And then when it's on here, it's gonna use the R taking the file from data, role, and permissions. And from that role permissions, what I did is I adding grant select on the schema, so we can work on the external schema. And then I also can execute on my own store procedure, so that this one will do the whole deployment, which take the permission from this repo. And then to have the staging table, I add another pre-deployment script, which is fairly similar, because we have the thing, the property is the same, but it's pre-deployed, and that's a name. And then I have an external tables, the SQL server. So from this one, when it goes, it's going to print that out, and then it's going to take my staging table, and it's going to deploy the staging table. So in this case, we don't need to do any deployment and go through the really complicated permissions issue with who is deploying what, and everything is going to be automatic. So once this stage done, it's going to look at this file, grab everything from here. So it check if it exists, then it deletes it, and then it create a new one and put it in. So in that case, it's going to deploy that staging table. So that's how it works with it. So now when we built it, so if I build this, we'll wait for a little bit while it built. It should be fairly quick to go. Yep. And now after it built successful, I am going to view the folder. So open folder. And so what I see is this bin table, and there's a debug. So this is a DAC pack, which is what the pipeline going to read, but technically it's only a zip file. So what I'm gonna do is quickly change it to a zip so we can have a look at what is inside. I'll do a quick look. Okay, yep, that's right. And I'm gonna extract it here. So yep, as everything is here. And what we want to see is those files. So post-deploy and pre-deployed, what it's gonna do is bringing everything together. So post-deploy, so it's grab everything from the file, put together. I'm just checking if everything is good, looking right. And then pre-deploy, which is my external table, which is grab that external table and print it, create it there. So it looks like everything is working well. They're triggering the deployment pipeline. So what I do is just point out my commit, and then I point out to the test branch and switch to the branch. Well, what I'm just doing is reset that and then put hard. After I finish that, I press push, and then I force push, in which the pipeline is going to run. As the pipeline is triggered, we're gonna have the pipeline being run. And so this one is the one that ran before. And then what it does, when I choose a branch, go to the branch, first thing is that it's gonna build. do everything. And once I get that done, it's gonna get an artifact. And once I drill down, that's the deck pack that we did when we see the file, which is only a zip file. So we come back, that goes to release, and it releases the test. And once it being released to test, that's when it's showing successful. So everything, first it just downloaded the deploy external data source. I'll just check um, if it deploy my thing. And so yeah, deploy in the database. So that's all good to go. Then it just dropping some things. But the main important is if it's deploying the schema change, which is the one that we have in the deck pack. So it's in this stage, it's deploying my store procedure, deploying the table, and do all the update and everything completed. So hit debug, and then it could run through this. After it update the store procedure, if everything's successful, we should be able to go to the database table and get a verify if the data gets changed, and that's it. Yeah, so that's everything for this features that I have been working on. Thank you, and yeah, I'll see you there again then.